Welcome back everyone to episode 12 of Let's Play Aurora 4X. So there's two big milestones that I've reached simultaneously. This is the 21st of September 2050. We left off on the 1st of July 2050, so it's only been a few months, but two big things I need to come back on for. First and foremost, on the bottom, we have this just amazing announcement that finally, after a long search, we found Keon James, who will be renamed, but he's ready. He's joined our scientific community, and I've already put him to work. I have decided to take some of our labs away from sensors and fire control, and also some away from energy and energy weapons. And I've given him 4 from here, 5 from here, so he's gotten 9 labs to work with on defense systems, and of course we set him to work on the armor. That's what we want him to keep doing. In fact, technically he has queued up next alpha shields, but probably what I'll do is just cancel that research as soon as this one is done, and then again just queue up the next armor research. I think at this rate we probably can get 2 armor techs out before we build our laser frigates, which again I'm projecting to have started around the middle of 2051. So that's the idea, is around 2051 we should have enough recharge rate, we should have better beam fire control. I mean, all these things should really come. So around 2051, there's no hard deadline. I'm just going to wait for us to hit some kind of happy plateau on the research, and then we'll start construction of laser frigates. The other thing that's happened is our money has now finally ran out, and it happened at the same time. The very next tick, if we were to go one more tick, we would definitely, unfortunately, go into the negative. And that, as far as I understand it, that then impacts your wealth trade modifier. And what that does is then decrease your productivity. So my research and my industry, everything gets affected by this modifier. What also gets affected by it is how much the industry and research takes to operate. The money it costs to operate those things is also scaled down by that same amount, which allows you, it gives elasticity to the situation. You don't completely spiral out of control. The system is self-correcting. So eventually we'd go back positive because we'd be making such a little amount of money. I mean, the costs we'd have would be so low that our money collection would pay enough for it. So it's nice that the game has this very nice spring system set up. So the system will oscillate. It won't completely collapse, spiral out of control, and die. That would be bad, because then your game would just be over. However, I have been thinking a lot about it, and I'm wondering if I think it'd be kind of fun to set up this as a game. Like, this is not in the game, but as a mechanic of our role-playing series. I, as the Federation, would like to take a loan out. And I think this loan, I don't know what a common interest rate is, so we'll have some discussion over what I actually need to repay. But let's just take out a principal of 10,000. Let's take out a 10,000 credit loan, which should be enough to allow me. I mean, I didn't show you this, but I've already, since July 1st, since the very end of the last episode, I've bumped financial center production up, way up. So we know eventually this will go positive. But the problem is this rate, once we're negative, is going to drop down. So we'll be producing less financial centers. It's just going to slow down our overall recovery. So what I am proposing is we actually take out a loan, which is just going to be done through Space Master. I'll have to Space Master in the extra money, just give ourselves 10,000. And then when it comes time for the expiration of this loan for me to repay the original principal plus interest, I will then Space Master that amount out. And what I had in mind was, I don't think this is a pretty good rate for a loan, but I have no idea what kind of loan. I have no idea what a loan would look like for the Federation, if they would be charged much more than this. I'd like to think of it as getting a loan from the private corporations or something. But anyway, if we were to do a 10,000 credit loan, let's say we did 5% interest. This is the number I'm not sure is realistic. Maybe it should be 10%, maybe 5% is okay. I don't know. But if we did 5% interest and we say it compounds yearly, So a 5-year loan with 5% interest compounding yearly. That doesn't come out, obviously, to just 500 being owed at the end. That would be that would be nice, but it'll end up being a lot more than that, something like 3,000. So let's just do it on, and you guys can choose. We'll just have a discussion thread about the loan. I'll need eventually to elect some kind of treasurer to keep track of this, to remind me when the time is coming up. So let's say that I will have to repay this on the 21st of September, 2054. Is that 5 years? No, it is 2055. Okay, good. When you start from 0, it's always, I guess it's just very easy. We add 5 years. Such simple math. Okay, so 2055, this will be the expiration of this loan, when I'll have to repay the principal plus interest, will be 21st of September 2055. How much will we owe? I mean, compounding interest is not that difficult. We just times this by 0.05 or whatever the rate is we decide. This plus our original. Okay, this is year 1. We'll just memory save this. And now times this by 0.05. Okay, equals, and then just memory plus, memory recall. That's for year 2. 0.05, memory plus, memory recall, that's for year 3, whoops, sorry, memory recall times 0.05 equals memory plus, memory recall, that was year 4, and then times 0.05, this is the last time we have to do this, equals memory plus, memory recall. So I will owe, let's call this 12,763. So you can see that although it's 5% interest, but because it's compounded yearly, that's 5 times, 5% compounded ends up taking us up to 28% we owe total. So it's a 28% return on our initial investment. Well, not for us, for them, for whatever bank institution that we're paying. So I don't know if this seems too low. Maybe it should be a 10% interest loan, in which case I guess it'll be roughly around 16,000 that we owe. Yeah, I don't know. But if we can decide this in a nice discussion thread, obviously I'm going to take the loan now. So I'm already I thought about it and I agreed that I would do this, that I would just decide to make a loan. So anyways, that number we'll come back to later, but for now, let's just actually do the loan. So we're going to space master on, and then we're going to close this, reopen it, and I'm going to give myself that loan. We'll do this just by adding it here. 1, 2, 1, 2. So that is 10,000 that has just been added. Now turn off space master mode. Oops. And good, we're done. Okay, so that was nice. Now we have 10,000, which is nice. That basically what this allows us to do is keep progressing with the game without slowing down of things, and that's normally not what the game allows. But I thought it would be kind of fun to add this game mechanic. If people wanted to see what happens when this goes negative and all that, I'm kind of role-playing that we, as the Federation, would be able to take loans because government organizations often do operate not just in a deficit, but with a huge debt. So I don't know what the situation will be for the Federation, but I'm kind of presuming that we can do that as well. I didn't intend for us to go negative, but I think we can make a fun little role-playing skit out of it. Okay, so that said, we have two big things. The money situation, which now this 10,000 credit loan, and also the research. We're now engaging Dr. James, who we have to rename as well. In fact, I didn't bring up the list of names. I don't think I have it, do I? Yeah, I don't. Because if I do the other thing, that brings up my email. We'll leave that off. We'll leave that off the screen. So when I come back, I will have renamed Dr. James. There's a person who asked to be a scientist besides Frank Filthier. So that'll be our second scientist. And then by the time I come back, I'll just wait for whatever next big event we need to start looking at. But it might be the time to start making our laser frigates. So this may be as long as like a 9-year jump. But if something more interesting happens between now and then, of course, I'll bring you back. So I'll see you in a sec. Okay, so I've decided when. It's now August of 2051. We've gone almost a year since the last clip. And I've also decided when we will go ahead and research our laser frigates. It turns out that December 2051 is going to be a nice little hotspot for a bunch of our research to finish. Mainly we have the EM sensors. I just finished active grav sensor 21, which is going to help our active sensors. And EM also helps our active sensors, which is fantastic. And I'm surprised, but we actually are able to get them out before the end of 2052. So that is going to be the point at which we start this stuff. We also have our ship operations cost reduction will be happening in 2051. I mean, just towards the end of it. And the thing I was actually already planning to wait for, and it just so happens that everything seems to be lining up very nicely, is for Renard James, who is now, this is the replacement for, I forget his original name, but this is Munashi's suggestion. So now we have our scientist renamed to Renard James. This is just like we have Frank Filthier. So this will be done in the end of November. So you can see all these things are lining up very nicely. 3 techs that we can get all going to finish at about the exact same time. And that's really that's what I mean by hitting a plateau. So the other thing to mention is that our finances have dropped all the way down to 6,000 from the 10,000 loan we had. But the good news is it's just about to turn the corner. So we're at negative 18. It should be cleared up pretty soon. So I will jump back. We know when we're going to build our frigates by. There's absolutely no way I want to wait any longer than the end of 2051. I want to get these started in 2051, even if that means just starting the industry production of some of the parts. Like the ships themselves may not start to be built for a little while longer, but that's just because we're going to take advantage of our our industry to build some of the components. Actually, if we wanted to, maybe I can even do this now. Is there any? Yeah, there is no power and propulsion research, which is going to finish in time. So we could actually start designing these naively. Maybe I'll wait to get, let's see, what if this stuff is going to change anything? I think, no, none of this stuff really matters. So I can start designing it as soon as I get, I mean, far ultraviolet laser is just going to increase the distance. So we could, in theory, start designing it right now. Let me actually cut away and go until we have the far ultraviolet laser, and then we'll choose that. That's just in a couple ticks. But it'll give me a second to collect my wits about what we want to do with this laser frigate, and then when I come back, we will design it. Well, here we are in the future, just a couple ticks away. Turns out we're going to wait until spinal mounts are ready before we design this, which I didn't adjust any of the research labs. Go ahead and just rewind and take a look if you want, but this is just how it happened that with the 12 research labs and his bonus of 45%, this will be done at the end of November. I mean, this is, it's pure coincidence, but it almost seems like it isn't. The game is telling me that I absolutely have to design this damn ship at the end of 2051. So we will do this. So we have a lot of technology. Even something which is completely unrelated to our laser frigates, also finishing in this late November, early December timeframe of 2051. And it's kind of strange or weird or some other interesting coincidence that the other 3 techs are all finishing in December 2052. So it appears that if we don't, once we have these laser frigates up and operational, maybe we should consider some other plateau of research, another ship design or something happening in 2052. Although honestly, I'll probably raise the power and propulsion amount. It's down from 25 to 15, just so I can get all these other technologies out. And I don't like to lower it any more than that, because how I generally like to weight these scientists is by their bonus. You get the most out of the higher percentage scientist if you give them more labs. That's how I prefer to do it. But if you need defense research and your guy's at 35, well, then he still is going to get 18 labs so that we can finish before 2052. So basically, much ado about nothing. Just saying that we'll be back in 2051, and I'll just do the design. The engines. I may want to start building the engines. Oh, and by the way, we're now actually positive. That's fantastic. I need to keep building infrastructure. Financial centers, because, well, we've gone a year already, 21st. So, okay, just a few weeks shy of a year. and we're negative 4,000. We need to be positive. We need to get this up to whatever the final the interest rate, the cumulative amount that I have to pay back is not just 10,000, right? For 5%, it was like about 13,000. It would probably be about 16 or 17 for 10% interest. So we need to get this. This doesn't just need to be at 10,000. It needs to be much higher. But we still have plenty of time. I'm sure we'll get there. Okay, so yeah, I don't know whether to design these on camera or not right now, because building those... Okay, let's just take a look. When does the longest thing finish? 2051, we have... That doesn't matter. So the last one right now is the 8th of December, this EM sensitivity. We won't be able to build the active sensors. And actually, we have to research the active sensors after that. So you know what? We're fine. Because once we research the individual technology, then we can go ahead and start building it. So... yeah, we'll wait for a little bit later into this, and then I'll do the actual ship design. Okay, I'll see you back. Okay, so we got interrupted before we made it to December, but that's because some important happenings have happened. We've completed our financial center construction, which means we have 500, but this also drew my attention to the fact that we are now in a worker shortage situation on Earth. This is pretty natural to happen, especially because everything in the Federation's, everything except for the terraforming operation that's happening on the moon, which, by the way, is continuing well. Everything is... Oh, shoot, do we have a terraforming station? I think we do. No, are they all on the moon? Summary... No, 2 are... Oh, okay, 2 are not done, but that's because they physically are not done. Okay, good. So all the stations we are supposed to have over there are there. But basically there's a shortage of workers on Earth because we have offloaded about 10% of the Federation's population onto other planets. So what's the best thing to do is, right now I consider, like, role-playing wise, Luna and Mars, the people there, available workers, are mainly just setting up infrastructure, doing family things, keeping that annual growth rate pretty high. But we need to give them some tasks. They have to share in some of the burden. I mean, it's not really a burden, just some of the day-to-day operations of the Federation, which includes things such as financial centers and scientists. So what I plan to do is have Earth offload its labs to the moon eventually. But right now, what I'm going to do is offload my financial centers to Mars. We don't have the total number of workers available there. We need 25 million. I think it's 1 million for every 20 financial centers. So we will only be able to get about 2/3. We'll get like 300 of our financial centers off. But that's still going to save us more than 5 million. I think that'll save us 15 million, I think, of workers, yeah. So we'll put a lot of the available population on Mars to work. Now, this is not allowed in the game. It's something that I will never be able to be... I don't think there's a convincing argument, but at least there's none that I've ever seen that makes it so that financial centers shouldn't be able to be moved to different planets. First of all, if it's something that you have to construct with a construction facility, then it's obviously something physical. There's some kind of physical component. And there's several comments, which this is like a good way to abstract it if you choose to play not able to move them. That you can't move them because they're like a financial system set up with a bunch of people, and that all these people need to work together, so it's hard to relocate them all. But honestly, I don't find that argument still as convincing as the fact that you should just be able to move them. It's like, that's the way we abstract it if you can't move them, but you should still be able to move them because you can move people. People are very easy to move. We can see we're moving hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people even, to colonize these new worlds. So of course it'd be easy to move a financial system as in a group of people. And the buildings they work in are usually just a place to work, and really what they need is to be able to be together and to use the computing resources they need to compute the financial stuff they're trying to compute. Basically what I'm trying to say is financial centers to me seem like a no-brainer to be able to move. And the fact that you can't is something that I'm so opposed to that I do cheat, quote-unquote cheat, and I space master our financial centers to a different place. But I'm not going to be so cheaty as to avoid the fact that we should have to transport them there. So what I'm going to do is I will turn on space master mode in a second, but I've already set up Sonia's operations. She's going to load a mass driver from Earth just to simulate loading something. This fills up her cargo space too, so it'll be a max cargo space fill. She's then going to move to Mars, and then move back to Earth, and then unload the mass driver. Then I forgot we've got to refuel. And we start the whole thing over again. And I'm going to keep doing this for a tick. 36,000 was what I wanted, but that's fine. I wanted them to wait 10 hours before they left, but that's okay. Because I want to delay. Basically, if I just have the Sonia going back and forth, she's going to waste more fuel than she would if she was actually loading and offloading. In particular, the fact that she's doing her loading and offloading on Earth means it'll still happen much faster because we have a spaceport. But at least this more accurately simulates the actual fuel demands that the Sonia would need, that she would demand if she was actually moving the financial centers off planet. And because I think financial centers would be pretty easy to move quickly, so what I'm planning to do is, now this is the part, where we actually start waving our hands a little bit, because I don't know exactly how many financial centers the Sonia would be able to move in a 5-day period. Considering the Mars is not that, well, it's still pretty far away. So I'm just going to assume that she probably makes a trip every day. And I'm assuming that she carries about 10 financial centers per trip, which is quite a lot. So maybe this is too many. But what I'm trying to say is I'm just going to abstract that it takes her a 5-day cycle to move 50 at a time. So I think this is probably not the most perfectly accurate system, but it's just something to give us like the feel that we're actually moving financial centers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start every tick. I'm going to drop this by 50. So we'll put this to 450. And I'm going to go to Mars, and I'm going to increase this by 50. So it's not perfect, but basically I'm not trying to cheat the system. I'm still trying to give the effect that we're moving them slowly. And that's maybe not done in the most perfect way, but because it's not an actual game mechanic, we have to kind of wave our hands at some point and say, this is the best we're going to be able to do. So, a lot of space mastering going on in this episode, but that's okay. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about this because it might not be interesting, but I find it like an interesting discussion why financial centers are not mobile. Okay, so that is the financial centers will start moving at 50 a tick. They'll probably still be in the process of being moved when we start designing our laser frigate, but that should soon alleviate our problem as far as workers. Another thing I will do is, after these financial centers are moved, I'll probably start moving some research labs to the moon. But that's a little trickier because when you actually move them, you can actually have leftover lab pieces, and it's kind of a pain. Anyways, usually I let the civilian population do this. So another thing we could do is just pay money to let the quote-unquote, enact the fact that we'd be letting a civilian economy do all the lifting for us, all the moving of the financial centers. But I guess I could look into the contracts, how much it would cost. So that's installation construction. I mean, I could do like a quick fake contract to move like automated mines or something, and then see how much that costs and extrapolate that to financial centers. But I'm okay with the way we're doing it now, just having the actual state freighter move the financial centers. It just costs us fuel instead of money, which I'm fine with that. But to move the labs, I usually do like to move the research labs to the moon using the civilian economy. The only problem is there's a system where the civilian freighters will actually grab as many items. They will fill up their freight, basically. So even if you don't want them to, they will grab an extra lab component. And what that ends up doing is it leaves fractions of a lab on moon and fractions of a lab on Earth. But unless you have a full lab, it doesn't count. So you actually lose 2 labs in functionality unless you really micromanage this situation. So I'll probably have to do a lot of space mastering. Like it'll be like 50.8 on Earth and 21.2 on the moon, and I'll have to constantly go back and correct that so that it's even, because it's just some kind of artifact of the way civilians move stuff. So it's not good, but I don't know what to do about it. Anyway, we'll start moving those eventually. I think that's all I wanted to say. Oh no, one last thing: industry. So with our industry, we can now start cranking these things back up. I think that a 20, 10, and 70 configuration will work out fine for us. I definitely like the fact that we're getting a lot of research labs, but yeah, we probably need them more than we need automated mines right now even. So let's drop this down to 10 and do this at 80. Well, at the same time, the automated mines don't cost people, but yeah, we're not doing so. Even getting 50 of these away took 2.5 million, so a few more trips and we won't have a worker shortage. So yeah, we'll do this. We'll increase our research lab. So we'll leave it like this, and now I'll go forward and in just basically one more month, I'll come back and we'll be ready to build our laser frigates. Which I mean, not actually build them, but do the research we need to start researching. Okay, we need to actually design in the research screen the components we want, and then we have to research them, and then we can build the ship. But that'll all happen in the next one. Okay, well, it's been a little bit amusing to watch the Sonia making her round trips back and forth between Earth and Mars. I am coming back, of course, because now it is time. We have all the research done. We're ready to lay down our laser frigate design. Before I do that, I just want to make a mention of some changes to the Sonia situation. I determined that actually moving 50 financial centers per tick was too much. So I've only moved 200 of the 500. We still have 300 left on Earth, over to Mars. Like I said, this is just, I didn't say this, but this is because this is taking, the round trips are taking longer than I expected. So I felt that moving 50 at a tick was too much. So we moved 200 in about a month and a half, 2 months or so. It's probably about 50 labs every tick to 2 ticks to 3 ticks instead of the original 1 tick per prediction. And I think that lines up a little bit better with what we would expect if the financial centers were objects we could actually move. Although I do imagine that they'd be pretty small so that the Sonia could load up many of them on a single trip. Okay, so that aside, we'll move on to the important stuff, which is the research is done, and now we have our laser frigate design available to build. It was always available, but there's a caveat to this, unfortunately, that we don't have the best synergy with our technology quite yet. To start off with, let's just design the active sensor, because this is something... Actually, let's do this first things first. Let's actually get our new design. Now this design, I'll call it the Portland just for now. This is not going to be the eventual name. This is going to be a frigate. So what I plan to do for this ship is make it just that single spinal laser amount, and that's it. So it'll be a very small, light ship, but it'll be something. I prefer a deployment time of a year. I will eventually prefer to have enough engineering spaces for there to be over a year for maintenance, in between maintenance stuff. And in my opinion, your maintenance failure or maintenance lifetime should always be longer than your crew deployment, because crew deployment fixes at, I think it was 7 to 1. I think it's 7 to 1 that your crew. I think it was it, or was it 8 to 1? But the rewinding your maintenance clock only happens at 3 to 1. So therefore, in order to have them both finish, both zero out at the same time, you just need more maintenance available to you. They won't zero out at the same time, but basically you can go a little bit over on your crew time, and really what the limiting factor is your maintenance time. I don't know if that made sense, but in my head it makes sense to do crew deployment time lower because it'll it'll be recharged faster. So, okay, that said, let's actually just put in an engine just as a temp, like a placeholder. Since these are, I plan on probably making the engine maybe a little bit smaller than 2500, but it could be 2500. Depends on what speed we want out of it. But this is going to simulate the size. Okay, this is in tons, but we could also do it, and this is going to be easier to compute when we actually want to figure out what size engine, what power is going to give us what speed. I'll leave it in tons for now, though. So this is a 3,100 ton ship, even just with the engine and some of the things that we're requiring, like so this is a commercial engine, this is a commercial vessel. It won't be for long, because as soon as we get lasers in here, which, yeah, actually we cannot get. So nothing on this ship is going to be non-commercial yet. Anyways, it's the Frigate. I think I will just rename it now. So there's two names that I'm leaning towards. Basically, either we should name it, the Pegasus is kind of an interesting name for our first spacefaring warship, because it is an anomaly. Like, it is a unicorn type situation to have a spaceship that is also a military vessel, like fully with the functionality of combat. That's the main role. So, like, I kind of like to play with the idea the unicorn is something that's very difficult to find. It's very unique. Pegasus, in that way, okay, Pegasus is actually the winged horse. Unicorns are different from Pegasus. Okay, this is true, but I'm thinking of Pegasus the same way I think of unicorns, as like a mythical and mystical beast, and a rarity. So I kind of like this idea. Also, the Pegasus, I looked this up. I looked up the class names that I wasn't familiar with, so I could get a good idea of where these names are coming from. Pegasus is the hydrofoil class of ships that the United States was using back in the 60s or 70s. So they have incredible speeds, and that does fit the frigate we're attempting to use. So this first frigate will be the Pegasus. And we'll leave it there, just a Pegasus class frigate for now. But yeah, so let's just start designing the components, and then you'll see what I mean about the beam fire control not matching up with the laser very well. So active fire control, active sensors are going to be perfect. Now, this is purely from a role-playing perspective. We know that this ship is going to be going after like pirates. We're going to be defending the trade lanes and all that. So it's not actually meant to. We can't even conceive of an enemy, an NPR or anything like that. All the game mechanics, which you possibly know and I know, that we probably won't be running into NPRs with anything less than 5,000 tons for their whole size. That's all like out-of-game knowledge that we're not bringing into the Federation. So the Federation only has in mind right now to track down these pirate vessels, which are probably smaller. And the main concern for a frigate, any military vessel, I should say, is especially detecting the ships which can do itself harm. So mainly you want to be able to detect ships which are capable of damaging you. That's the most important thing. As your role is to find the other ships, it's also good to find them, but the critical priority is to defend yourself. So, I think the frigate, we already saw that it's going to be over 3,000 tons, but I think that it could be threatened by something as large as, or as small as 2,000 tons, which means maybe we'll make it this size, and I think size of 5 would be nice if we can get down to that, see how that does. So it's slightly less than 100 million on range, which we originally, I think, were positing would be around 120. 23 million for a 1,000-ton object, and 1.5 million away for 250-ton object, which is just incredibly small. I don't think that this kind of object can exist for us yet. We haven't really developed fighters or anything like that, so the capability of having these kind of shuttle-type craft, you'd only find these as extremely short-range objects anyway. So detecting them in the middle of space is probably not going to be very important. We might see these maybe as courier craft going between the moon and Earth. And the moon and Earth is what, like 500,000 kilometers? So less than a million? Let's find out. What is your... So yeah, it's like 400,000 kilometers, so it's less than a million. So even one of these radars, on either Earth or the moon could detect any like courier shuttle type craft anywhere near those. And I'm just, again, we're just saying that craft who are long distance space travel vessels right now are going to need to be over 1,000. So going back to that design, whoops, did I just close it? I guess I did. Let's go back to it then. We want 5 and maybe 2,500 instead. So we don't need to detect these small objects. So they're kind of, yeah, even 1 million is still more than double the range between Earth and the moon. And we can detect 1,000-ton objects at 16 million. But the important thing, the stuff we need to defend ourselves against, we can detect at 100 million now. 16 million, that's still pretty good. Let me actually design this. Let's call this done as is. It doesn't matter. We don't need to min-max too much because this is not actually a functional active sensor. It's just something for our frigates in like a roleplay sense. So I'll create the 2051 December, which is our date. Active search sensor max range 103 kilometers for a resolution 50. Okay, good. So we'll create that, and we'll have to get to that in a second. But let me just see what is 16.7 million? What does that look like in terms of, like maybe, what's the distance between like Venus and Earth? So this is only halfway, not even quite halfway between the distance between Earth and Venus when we are exactly lining up, when we have an eclipse event, Venus eclipsing the sun. Venus eclipsing the sun from Earth. So that's it's not the hugest range. It just gives us a nice little bubble of protection around our frigates to prevent any 1,000-ton objects, which are probably the smallest spacefaring object I can imagine. These, obviously, the freighters we're trying to keep track of in the civilian, the private sector, are going to be huge compared to 2,500. So 2,500, we just think of like around the pirate vessels we might encounter. All fictional, of course, but just for the roleplay. Now, that is our active sensors. We have other stuff to do. Let's move on to beam fire control. This is the tricky one, but let me show why just by going to lasers first. So we have far ultraviolet laser, which is actually going to be, as you'll see, pretty powerful in terms of range and all that. Now, this is not showing the damage fall off with range. This range modifier, I think this is what is supposed to indicate to you how much damage you lose over distance. I have the graph somewhere that I looked up. It's on the Aurora Wikipedia page. So it's easier to do it from there. But basically, I won't be doing 6 damage output the entirety of my range. Now, I did plan to make these a spinal mount, which will make them even more powerful, which is nice. So, 9 damage output, right? 10 seconds. Yeah, it's going to be 10 because we have a power requirement of 9, and we do 5 per 5 seconds. So we need 2 5-second ticks to get this recharged. Notice that the power requirement of this one was 6. It doesn't change. It's still 10 seconds because we need 2 5-second ticks. It's like kind of the worst of all worlds. 9 is very close to the 10 we can get total in 2 time period and 2 like ticks. So this is a pretty good fit. So I like that. Now we can only get 1 spinal laser unless we do some cheaty things, which I'm not going to do because I think it's outside the roleplay. Unless I consider it appropriate in some role-playing sense, we won't be doing it. And this is also 2051 December. So that is our laser. But our laser has a maximum range of 450,000. This is what I want you to remember. We create this. Now we go back over to beam fire control. Whoops, one more down. And this range is 32,000. Obviously this is horrible, but we can increase it a bit by 4 times by making it larger. So this means that now our max range is 128. But remember that other one was 450,000. So we're obviously, even though this is at 50%, this is our 50% range, and it's just very linear. So this means at 256 we actually hit 0. 255 we have 1% chance. You know, at 1,000 kilometers we have 99% chance, etc. So if we get close enough, we'll have very good accuracy. But at the maximum range of our laser, we'll have very, very poor... In fact, this accuracy will be 0% long before the laser itself will actually be... We're able to fire the laser beyond the point where our fire control already has a 0% chance to hit. So that means that our fire control is limiting us in a pretty severe way. But the flip side of that coin is we have the damage fall off anyways, so even if we were hitting at longer range, there's not as much damage. So in this sense, it's better to close a little bit, especially if the enemy doesn't have lasers. I'm not sure what we're abstracting the potential pirates to have. I'm kind of imagining that they are more bark than bite, that they're just like threatening other ships with... If your ship's completely undefended, any kind of armament on the other ship is, well, bad for you, a losing prospect. So this ship should be overwhelmingly more powerful than any other ships that we can conceive of inhabiting the solar system. So I'm just going to let them close to distance. This is not optimal. I was even considering forcing myself to wait until we're going to have to get him to redo the fire control anyway, because now we want him to do this. But I was actually considering him doing the beam fire control range with the maximum number of labs. If we were to do that, let's just drop this. Just drop that real quickly. It would take until the end of March, and I really wanted to get this thing started in December. Before 2052. So we'll just do that. Obviously, that's not going to be actually laid down. There's no production at all. No physical production will start on it this year, but we'll be able to get the active sensors going. So we'll create that. I want actually you to take your 5 labs back. Okay, so take all of these, that's fine, and this will be done pretty quickly still. Yeah, this will be done in 2 ticks even, which is great. I think we'll give 1 more lab back to Dr. Allen though, because his construction and production is just going to be important until the end of time. There's never a point at which this is not beneficial for you. Sometimes it's marginally less beneficial than getting military tech, but as we're not currently assailed by any threat, it's probably not at that point yet. Okay, quite a lot of talking about the tech, and we've only put 1 to be researched. The next fire control we're going to get is the beam fire control, which is this one. So what do we want for our fire control? Actually, that's a good question. It's good for us to make our engine first, and then just make sure that our fire control rating at least covers the speed of our engine, of our ship, I should say. So let's go over to engines and see what we can do there. And mainly what we're going to be doing is taking this power and replacing it with the design we have to get an idea of what this ship will be capable of. For military ships, let's increase the engine power slightly. Obviously leave that. I'm not going to worry about thermal reduction yet. And then just as a first guess, a first approximation, what if we left this at 50 hull size? Maybe we can go even bigger. So this is 0.26 is pretty low. What if I went to this? 0.38, not bad, and we're getting 1400 engine power out of this. Okay, so what does this all mean? Well, unfortunately I'm going to go off the screen, but let's just take a look at this active fire control. It was a size 5 or 6, I already can't remember. Was it 6? Okay, it was 2500, no, 2000. It was size 5. 92, 23, no, we actually went to 2500, huh? This is what we had. Okay, so we had size 5 for our sensors. This is important to remember. Our beam fire control will be 4 times range. And let's say 3 times tracking speed, because I think 15,000, our ship will probably be less than that. So this would make it size 6. If we go up to the next one, it'll be size 8. So it's either size 6 or size 8. Depending on how fast our ship is, 15,000 or 20,000. So this tracking speed is your ability to shoot at it, but your ability to track the target, at which point, if you don't have high enough tracking speed, you have a penalty. But your actual ability to fire at something is also modified by a separate modifier. So let's say that the object is 20,000, and we're at 15,000. That gives us only a 75% chance to hit. Then furthermore, if our ship speed is only 15,000, that's another 75% penalty to hit, as far as I understand it at least. Because you need the tracking speed with your fire control, and then you also need your ship's actual capability to track, like to turn, which is either your ship if you're abstracting it as like a hard point, or if it's a turret, it's your turret's tracking speed, which is an independent thing if we were to do turret design. Anyway, I don't want to tutorialize too much. That was not supposed to be the purpose of this video or this series, but to move on. So let's just take this 6, but we will do a lot of math here because that is what Tortuga does. He min-maxes, he does the math, and I'm happy to even allow the Federation to do that min-max stuff. I don't feel it's outside the role-playing for us to consider that. So we had 5 for our active sensor, we have 6 for our beam fire control. Our laser was size, I want to say 6. So 4, and then if we made it spinal, it would be 6. Okay, so we have 6, 6, and 5 are the additions from our 3 things that we want to add to the ship, which is fire control, active sensors, and then the laser itself. Let's go back to our ship design, and let me bring over our calculator. Let me bring it over in a second when I actually have the design up. So the Pegasus design view, here we go. So right now, this ship at, okay, this is annoying, but take this off so it's a little bit easier. This ship is at 62 of its exact size, which is 3,100 tons, but that's just 62 times 5. So 62 times 50, I should say, 3,100. Let's just use this though, because it's going to be easier to calculate our max speed. Max speed, so you can see 320 divided by 62 equals 51161. There it is, 5161. That's the number we're looking at. This times 1,000 is our speed. So it's a simple ratio. I mean, really simple math for doing the speed your ship will go. Now, our 62 has to have 3 additions. The fire control is 6 or 8, but we'll put 6 first because I think 15,000 will be enough. Our active sensors is 5, and our laser is another 6. So we're expecting this ship to be 79 in size. That'll probably also increase because I don't know what our engineering bay situation is, if that's enough. But let's just add a lump sum of all these things will go up. The larger size your ship is, the more crew you need, which means the larger your crew quarters, the more crew quarters you need in order to satisfy a particular deployment time. So everything increases with the size of the ship besides the actual components we've added. I'm just going to make a rough guess that it's like 82. Let's just say it's 82. Okay, so with an engine power of 320, we would only be going 3,900 kilometers per second. But remember, our engine was going to be 1,400. And 1,400 divided by 82 is 17,000 kilometers per second. Okay, so this shows me that we don't need to be going this fast. Let's just reverse this real fast. Let's do the reverse math, if I can do this right. Instead of taking the engine power and dividing it by this to get something, let's multiply this by our engine, let's multiply the speed we want, which let's just say is 15,000. Let's multiply this by the 82. So we want an engine power of 1250 to get a speed of, wow, that's really not bad at all. And there's 2 ways we can do this. We can either keep up the efficiency of our, so let me put this over. So wow, this is better than I expected. But you can see all the math, it's very straightforward to do this. So if we decided to go with, we only need 1250 to get 15,000. And I think I would prefer to do 15,000 or under, which keeps our beam fire control a little bit lower, keeps the ship just smaller all around. I like that. I like everything about that. One thing is the project size for this is actually probably huge if we do a 50, because this is just linear scaling. Then we do this. I think it also increases the project size. Let's just do a 20% increase should bring us up to 6,000, and it does. So everything we do increasing these is going to increase the cost of this thing. Now 1,200 is what we want. I mean, that's perfect for us actually. But what if We could reduce, sorry if you hear kids playing outside, but I have to record this eventually, right? So we just gotta do it even though there's background noise. What if we do whole size of 40 and then drop this up to 140? It looks like our development cost is gonna be 5,600 no matter what. So let's go back to 125, because why not just get slightly better. We don't need full, what was it? We only need 1230. And this is 1250. But if we do 45 whole size, that means that 1125, this will be slight, this will be like 14,000 in speed, which is still like incredibly fast. What if, okay, so what if we do it this way then? Let's just do 1.2 and the reduced size also means that we've done 5 less whole size. We're dividing this by 80, not 82 anymore, but 77. And I think 1080, let's just do the math real fast. 1080 divided by 77. Yeah, we're still at 14,000. So I'm okay with this. Let's do this for our engine. It's kind of a weird design, but I like it. And the research cost is only 5,400. We trimmed off a little bit by making it a little bit less powerful. So I'm really in favor of this. It has very good power consumption as well, which will give it better range. Not that that's a huge factor, but yeah. Okay. And I probably got to call this episode to a close. We're like way over on time, but that's okay. This was an exciting thing to create. So let me create this as it is. And now let's just go and queue up the things. Queue up the research, the appropriate research. Cancel you, get you to do power and propulsion. You have a big project ahead of you. Okay. And your next thing will still be, what was it? This one you were working on? Still queue that up. Now we have the sensor and fire control, which did we actually do? No, we still have to make the fire control, which we now are going to sit, as I originally thought, at ×4 here and ×3 here. Okay, all good. 2051, December. Great. Go to research, queue this one up next for you. Q. Alright, now who do we lack a Q for? Probably that's sensor and fire control. Scott Connor and his logistics and ground stuff. So Scott Connor probably is missing. He is. What do we want him to do? I really do wish we had fuel storage very large. That would be helpful already, but that's okay. We'll wait a little bit longer. Lots of good things. We can start getting like engineering section, engineering bays and all that going, because eventually we will want. I'm going to want a boat bay just to have like shuttles, because shuttles are a big part of the Enterprise, and we'll want that by the end of the century. Okay, we're only 2/3 the way there. I mean, sorry, 1/3 of the way there from the game start, so we have plenty of time to still do all these things. That's a good point. So maybe we'll hold off on that. I don't know. We're kind of at this phase where there's nothing urgent to do here. There's all just like medium priority things. And then there's still like low priority things like garrison battalion, stuff like that, which we don't need for a long time. But what do we want to work on first? Honestly, colonization cost reduction is probably the most immediately beneficial for us. There's nothing else here I see that we absolutely need, but it takes such a long time to get. We might be better served. I'm going to put it on as the next queue, but if I think of something better to do, I'll switch that out, just because that would take so long. It's going to limit, as an opportunity cost, it'll limit the other research we can get done. Like maybe a flag bridge if we're going to start flying around with actual military ships. Okay, anyway, we are all set. So what I'm going to do now is call this video to a close. And yeah, that's it. That's the laser frigate. So I'll call this video to a close, but what I'll also do is move forward in time until these things are all researched. We'll strap them on the Pegasus, and then we'll see the actual final design characteristics. But I feel pretty confident with what we already have. Except for, of course, foolish me, lasers require a power plant. Whoops. So I'll also have to do the power plant, but this video is so over, we'll get to that. I'll probably put that on the next video. So thanks for watching, and until the next one, take care.